Hi everybody, Karen Roby here with Chris Matijcik for ZDNet, and we always have a great time talking with you, Chris, because of some of the interesting stories that you do, that you find, and today we're talking about Google, two different things about Google, and this first one, it almost sounds like the start to some kind of a joke or odd off-the-wall story, so I'm going to let you tell it. But it has to do with Google and someone coming up to your friend and offering them money for something. I'm going to let you take it from there.
You know how to set up a mystery, don't you, Karen? That was really good. So I have this friend. That's how the joke starts. I have this friend who is an engineer of some repute. You know, he's done the Silicon Valley thing, but he's taking time out now because he needs to work on himself. And, you know, the problem with all these techies is that they think rationally so much that they can't actually allow their emotions to squeeze in between all the rational thought. So my engineer friend George, is taking time off and he's going to self-help classes and, you know, lying in the park because the weather's nice. And there he was just a few days ago, lying in the park when two people walked up to him and wanted to talk. Now, of course, he suspected there might be Scientologists, but they turned out to be what I would call the next best thing, which is people who work for Google. And what they wanted him to do was to take hold of a device and then to make several movements of the device from his pocket towards his face. And they would register these movements, presumably, on the device. And he couldn't tell whether it was a new Pixel or whether it was one of the old Pixel phones because it was in a big fat case. And as an incentive for him to do this, they offered him the princely sum of $5, but not in cash. They gave him a choice of $5 Starbucks gift card or $5 Amazon gift card. And of course, they asked him to sign a waiver. Now, my friend George kind of doesn't believe privacy exists anymore, so he didn't even bother to read the waiver. He just signed it and did what they asked while he chatted with them, because he knows a thing or two about phones. And he said, you know, what are you doing? And they explained that they were trying to create a revolutionary new way of opening a phone with your face. Because, of course, your face is lazy. You need to make it work much harder. The whole point of your face these days is to get it to open your phone. If you can't get it to do that, what kind of face do you have, frankly? I mean, it's a lazy face. So when I asked him, I said, so do you know what was in the waiver? Do you know what they're going to do with your data? He said, well, they'll probably use my face and lots of other people's faces to put into machine learning and into a neural network and actually just sort of record what faces look like and then use that as the basis for creating this revolutionary new version of Face ID. And I said, George, do you really know that's what they're going to do? He went, no, but what does it matter? There's no privacy. And so I asked Google, I said, so how are you handling this face data that you're buying for $5 from random people? And by the way, George told me that it's in a lot of different cities they're doing this, not just in New York where they caught him. So I asked Google, I said, what are you doing with all this data? And Google didn't respond.
No response whatsoever. Did that surprise you?
I tried on behalf of you and everyone else.
Well, we certainly appreciate your efforts, but if we look at it a little deeper, let's just say that if they are wanting to open up a device with their faces, they've got to do their research, right? So they go to parks and places where they can find people, and $5, I don't know, is your face, your data worth $5? I mean, how else are they going to get their research, right?
Well, obviously, I don't have any other ideas of how they might do it, but George pointed out rather intelligently, because, you know, he is one of these engineer people, that they would have to record a hell of a lot of faces to create enough data. He estimated it would take them years of walking around public places and recording people's gestures and what have you in order to create something meaningful that it was a big enough data set. So who knows why Google is actually doing this? Maybe they're working with the government on a rival facial recognition software to rival Amazon's. I don't know. They didn't tell me anything.
I don't know that it's worth a $5 Starbucks gift card, but who knows? To each his own. But we've been talking so much, Chris, lately, of course, in the news and in all of these tech sites about with the face apps and all of this kind of thing. And as you mentioned, I don't know, do we have any privacy left? Security? Is it all out the window? I mean, what are your thoughts there?
Apparently it is, and I think it's clearly our fault because what we've done is merrily signed away our privacy just so that we can do the most inanely silly things like get likes on Instagram. So it is our fault, but frankly, we didn't really know what was going on, and tech companies definitely didn't want to tell us what was going on. And so they're in this situation now where finally governments are beginning to at least address some of the issues involved and maybe thinking about regulating tech companies, fining tech companies even. Good Lord, 5 billion for Facebook. And of course, the stock price went up. So at some point, I think there will be a reckoning where we stop and consider what together us real humans and the tech companies have wrought. And it could be a society in which essentially entities have so much information about us that they know what we're going to do next before we do, which is, of course, their goal. They would love to be able to predict things for us because ultimately then the machines will prove that they're cleverer than we are. And let's face it, we're not the brightest civilization on earth. We just think we are. And suddenly then there may be a little rebalancing required.
Yeah, I think it is time for a little rebalancing. I just don't know how long it's going to take us till we get there. But Chris, always a good conversation, as I mentioned with you. So we thank you for the story, for your friend's research there for Google. And if you want to find the story and much more from Chris, make sure you check out ZDNet.